Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Rangers Review morning briefing for Wednesday, the 25th of August. I'm Derek Clark. I'm joined by Johnny McFarlane this morning to talk all things Rangers. And there's plenty to talk about, Johnny. We'll kick off with a statement that Rangers put out last night. I'll read it. Those Rangers can confirm that during our testing schedule, we've received positive COVID-19 tests. Those identified as positive are now in self-isolation along with close contacts. We have followed best practice in our procedures and protocols from the outset of the pandemic. Rangers has worked closely with the Scottish Government and Scottish football to ensure the health of our staff is protected at all times. We will continue to do so. That's led to a lot of speculation about who the players could be, Johnny, but it's not good timing, is it?
Yeah, that's one way of putting it. A lot of speculation. Of course, it's not. I'm laughing, but it's not funny because it means that players have COVID, which can be serious. And obviously, our wishes first and foremost go with them, and hope that they have a quick recovery. And I'm sure they will, being young athletes. But it's obviously a really difficult one. Terrible timing for Rangers to have this kind of outbreak. They've obviously managed COVID pretty well over the last 18 months or whatever, because there's not really been too many incidents like this. And everyone is waiting to hear which of the players are going to be out, because these are the two biggest games you can probably imagine coming up. And it's extremely important that Rangers, first and foremost, go past Alashkert. The Europa League, from a financial point of view, Derek, is absolutely mammoth, and people won't like me saying it, but it's just a fact. The Celtic game is almost irrelevant compared to the Alashkert game from a financial point of view. From an emotional point of view, the Celtic game isn't, but Alashkert is just so important for everything the club's trying to do, because the riches on offer in the Europa League, while they're not to the same extent as the Champions League, are still very, very significant for the finances of the club going forward. So, we're having to see who it is that's out. It could be that it's players in positions where Rangers have good cover, and Rangers do have a very good squad and do have a lot of depth. So I think, provided it's not a large amount of players, Rangers should have the quality and the player pool to deal with that situation. And I suppose what we're going to have to just do is wait and see until Steven Gerrard has his press conference later today to find out exactly which of the players will not be available. We know that John McLaughlin is not available for Scotland because of what Steve Clark said was a little issue at Rangers. So it looks like he's a player that certainly won't be available for the game coming up if he couldn't make the Scotland squad. We don't know if that's linked or not. So time will tell. But it's obviously not the news that Rangers fans or Steven Gerrard would have wanted to hear, because these were two games when, Rangers really need to go out and get wins and kick-start their season.
Yeah, but listen, like you say, Johnny, the health of the players, it comes first. Football comes secondary at the moment. We wish them all the best, and hopefully the players who have tested positive or what have you are back fighting fit before too long. But it's certainly something that, especially last season, Rangers were a little bit fortunate. I think every club has been affected in some way or another. Phil Hollander springs to mind as one player who tested positive, I think, around October time last year. But apart from that, it was Rangers relatively were okay with it, weren't they? They weren't too affected by it.
Yeah, no, and I think, listen, that's down to good management, isn't it? That's down to a good set of protocols that are being followed correctly. So yeah, of course, there's an element of luck in COVID in terms of people getting it, because you can get it from anywhere. You can get it at the supermarket, you can get it from a relative, you can get it from not following the protocols, or you can still get it if you're following the protocols.
Yeah.
So there is an element of luck to it. That's absolutely right. But there's also an element of you make your own luck, and the more stringent you follow the protocols, presumably the less likely it is as a sort of percentage that you'll have players going through it. So clearly Rangers were pretty good on that last season, and it wasn't a big issue. And when a player did get it last season, it didn't spread to the rest of the squad. So yeah, I think it's it's going to be a difficult one until the players come back. We've already seen quite a big amount of disruption already this season in terms of I think there's been a couple of COVID issues already that weren't publicised, but have since sort of come out that there had been issues, which is to be expected given that the country is opening up the way it is. But also with new players coming in and with injuries, it just means more of that disruption, and it's going to be further until we get that squad into a settled position where they're clicking back to gear. And Steven Gerrard has everyone available.
Yeah. Big hello to James as always from down under. McLean's all getting in touch as well, and Alan. Morning, guys. Thanks very much for your company as always. Bob White getting in touch as well. Good to have you along with us. Johnny, like you say, the squad, even if whoever the players are out, you mentioned that the squad is such a size and has such strength and depth that you would feel confident going into this game tomorrow. It is a huge game. For me, I agree with you. I think that the Celtic game is this game is more important than the Celtic one, the Old Firm on Sunday. There's no doubt about it. I know people get emotional with regards to things like this, but if you had to take one win, you take it in tomorrow night. There's no doubt about it. And I think that the squad that Steven Gerrard will have at his disposal, we'll be doing a predicted lineups. Who knows who's going to be in them? But you'd expect that Rangers squad to be good enough to dispose of Alashkert. Hopefully, there'll be 11 players on the park to do so.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Alashkert, I think, weren't particularly impressive in that first game, were they? Let's be honest.
No.
I think they had unexpected goals of something like 0.01 or something like that. It was, they didn't offer any kind of threat. And that was even more the case, I think, after Rangers went down to 10 men. They just didn't offer anything going forward. But that's not to say that they're not dangerous. Any team can be dangerous in the right circumstances. We've got this situation with players potentially being out. So I think they need to be respected. But at the same time, Rangers should have the players to get through that game. But that is, as I said already, that is the most important game. And that's the one that if you go out there or you lose that game, then you can't really recover from that. Celtic, if you lose that game, you can recover because you've got the rest of the season, as painful as it would be. So to me, that's the one that the absolute focus will need to be on. And listen, we know Steven Gerrard, we know how he operates. It'll be one game at a time, so there'll be no thoughts in there about Celtic. There'll be none whatsoever. It'll be all about Alashkert. One game at a time and getting through that. So
yeah, absolutely. International call-ups yesterday. A number of players called up for international duty. You touched on the fact John McLaughlin isn't in the Scotland squad. Nathan Patterson is, though, which is good to see. Happy to see him being called up again, Johnny.
Yeah, terrific. And such a talented young player. And we know all the stuff about the bid from Everton and all that. But it's just another validation of the quality that he has, because he hasn't played much at the start of this season. But he clearly made a big impact on Steve Clark over the period of the Euros because, let's face it, given the amount of games that he's played, Clark had the opportunity not to pick him, and he's gone out and picked him. So he's clearly made a good impression. I've said before, people talk about Billy Gilmour being a generational talent, and listen, there's no doubt about that. Billy Gilmour, for me, is the most talented player in the squad. But I think Patterson is also a generational talent on the right-hand side. He is one that can be Scotland's right back for the next 10 or 15 years. So it was really good to see him back in there. And, you hope that he can play a big part in the season going forward for Rangers as well. Because James Tavernier, I've said this before on this video, he's ultimately, getting on now. He's 30, or he's 29 or 30. And he's not going to be able to play, or it's not going to be wise to play him 55 games every season, 55, 60 games. So if you've got a player like that, maybe you can reduce Tavernier's workload a little bit to 35 or 40 games, and Patterson can come in for the rest. And maybe even if they find a way where they can accommodate both of them, that allows him to get even more game time in. And I think that would be a smart way of sort of bringing Nathan Patterson into the side going forward. But we'll have to wait and see. There was talk yesterday that there was other Premier League clubs interested in him, and given that he's got the skill set that he does, it'd be no surprise if there was other clubs other than Everton who were looking at him, because he's clearly a talented lad.
Yeah, other call-up, Stephen Davis, of course, with Northern Ireland. He continues to carry on, but with Northern Ireland, which is great to see. Other notable tidbits with regards to then call-ups. Alfredo Morelos not called up to the Colombia squad, which for me is good news for Rangers, not having them travelling all over the world. And Kemar Roof posted a sort of cryptic picture just holding a Jamaican passport, saying he's ready. So that'd be an interesting one to see if he's going to jet off with Jamaica. I'm sure every Rangers fan is hoping that that's not the case. But it's good that Morelos isn't jetting halfway around the world, Johnny.
Yeah, it really is, because you know what? He's actually started the season really, really well, I think.
Yeah.
Certainly last year, he was quite slow to get up and running. And it wasn't until really the Europa League group stages I kind of felt we were seeing the Alfredo Morelos that we know certainly the guy that we have been used to seeing at that level. So this season I've actually been quite surprised and impressed that, given that he's had such a disrupted pre-season, that he started so well. Because like at Ross County, for example, I saw a lot of data that was showing that he was picking up the ball in the sort of number 10 position more than he ever has done before. I thought it was obviously a really good finish, a really clever finish for his goal. Maybe people saying Ross Laidlaw could have done better, but the more you watch it, the more you think it's kind of a lovely finish. And he just looked sharp. I don't know what you think, Derek. I mean, against Malmo, especially in the first maybe 60 or 70 minutes before he petered out a little bit, I thought he was absolutely great.
Yeah, I think he was a big miss. See the first leg, I think the Rangers missed him big time. And I mean, he came back that game at Ibrox. He looked the fittest of all the players on the park, which is a bit strange since he was training in a car park and what have you. We've all seen the video. So, but yeah, it looks like he's came back with the bit between his teeth, and that can only be good for Rangers. There's no doubt about it. Finally, John, just a quick one. Everyone was tuned into Nicola Sturgeon yesterday, looking to see if there'd be maybe more restrictions brought in. At the moment, there's not, so it looks like we're having a full house at Ibrox on Sunday, which is good news. Yeah,
terrific. I mean, there was WhatsApp stuff doing the round, wasn't there, yesterday morning with people suggesting that there was going to be a 40% reduction and things like that. But as usual with the kind of WhatsApp stuff, you've got to be very, very careful about what you're taking too seriously, and it was a real. But at the same time, if you look at the data around COVID, there's been a spike, and there's been a jump in the last week or so, and I think Sturgeon did say that if it continued to be problematic in that regard, if they continue to be a rise, then she would have to look at more restrictions, which is not what any of us want, and that might have an impact on football, but certainly not for the moment. And you're going to get Ibrox absolutely full with 50-odd thousand fans. All Rangers fans, of course. There won't be any Celtic fans in the ground, so you can only imagine what the atmosphere is going to be like before kick-off. And of course, there's a lot of Celtic players, Derek, that have never played in that environment before. The Old Firm derby, they're going to sort of get a rude awakening about the pressure and the sheer intensity of the fixture.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how they stand up to that. And Rangers will be hoping they get a bit shell shocked, and obviously they can take advantage of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, that'll do us there. Thanks again for everyone interacting with the show this morning. Remember, you can subscribe to the Rangers Review now for only £2.99 a month and support top quality journalism covering the club you love. We've got a load of great content on the website this morning, and keep in touch with our social media channels on Twitter and Facebook as well. We'll be back tomorrow morning as we look ahead to that match against Alashkert in the Europa League. But until then, bye for now.